Welcome to another live stream, you guys. First and most importantly, if I could just get an audio visual check here. Hopefully I have everything set up correctly here, but yeah, Bitcoin has been absolutely going nuts today. I've had a busy day, and I actually have to leave in about half hour, but I figured I'd at least come and see what the indicators are saying, go over a few things that I'm looking for and all that sort of good stuff. Just give me 1 second to post everything to the socials. You guys can hear me and everything. Okay, perfect. Yeah. I mean, a lot of you guys, those of you who have been following along with my live streams on not only this channel, but also my own YouTube channel and stuff like that, you know that I have been quite vocally bearish for quite a while. Yesterday was actually the first time I did a private live stream where I was actually calling for a pump towards 65K, and I'm going to call that 65K. I mean, we basically hit my target there. So things do get a little bit dicier here. I'm going to go into a couple levels I'm watching and that sort of thing. But yeah, how is everybody feeling on the market right now? Anyone excessively bullish, excessively bearish? The way it is right now, I mean, Bitcoin's got a lot of strength. I did just take a little bit of a long right now. It's a very small one because I do think there's potential that we drop down a little bit lower down here. But there's a few things that caught my attention that I wanted to at least start a position here and basically go live. So yeah, I am a little bit rushed because I basically decided to do this about 2 minutes ago. So bear with me. But yeah, I'm going to look at some levels that I consider important on the structure side of things, both in lower time frames as well as higher time frames. And I'll take a look at what the MDX ALGO indicators are saying and that sort of thing. But yeah, how is everybody feeling about this breakout here? It has been absolutely beautiful. I mean, you guys know I was very intrigued by this resistance that we have here. I did end up taking a couple shorts from these levels. And, you know, I am more of a scalper myself. So, I mean, those positions have come and gone. But yeah, last night I ended up taking a long and basically a perfect one. And it was just going over some of the, it's not like it was a fluke chance that I got in down at 60.3K. That is just some of the basic strategies that I teach in every single live stream I do. It was actually a combination of the MDX ALGO indicators as well as those Stuber Fibonacci setups that I talk about all the time. So I do want to go into what led me to take that. I know some of you guys have seen the video I posted last night and why. But yeah, I'll just go over all that kind of stuff. And like I said, just kind of watch some degenerate time frames here for half hour, 45 minutes or something like that until I got to go. But I had some time to kill and the market's extremely volatile. So I kind of wanted to go over my thoughts here. First and foremost, Bitcoin's showing a lot of strength. I want to be very clear about this, you guys. I think there is a lot of strength here. However, when you really zoom out like this, there's still some red flags. There is still bearish structure when I look at this chart here. This is day one stuff. We have low, lower, low, lower, low, lower, low. So we just have a series of lower lows. Every time we set a new lower low, we confirm a lower high. And basically what I'm looking at right now is the reason I was calling for 65K. That was actually just front running my 786. But that's just a classic Stuber Fib setup, right? We had this lower low and then we had another lower low. So that's when I pulled my Fibonacci from where we top out between the two, chasing the price down to the bottom. And that's kind of where my target was. So even though this was a big bearish signal, in my opinion, but what happens often, and this goes for every time frame, not just the longer time frames or not just the shorter time frames, but people have a really hard time waiting for these types of things to play out on the longer time frames. And you would see so many people just FOMO shorting into this kind of a move with the structure break. And that's fair to expect a bearish move because we did have a bearish structure break. However, pullbacks are totally normal. And that's where I love using Fibonacci's. I mean, it's the Fibonacci retracement tool, right? It's used to find those retracements. And the levels I love to use, and I show every single stream that I do, is the 786, 886. So that's why I do have this red box outlined here. And like I said, there is some strength showing. I want to be clear about that Bitcoin doesn't look too bad yet. It's just that we're approaching a level that it was kind of my target for, hey, if things are going to remain bearish, I'll still be open to the idea that we end up targeting these levels up here, because that's just the type of setup that I would short every time on a shorter time frame, basically. The thing is, eventually trends break, right? So, I mean, yes, so far we've just been, as we break those lower lows, we end up getting those Stuber fib pullbacks. Just in case some of you guys are new here and haven't seen my streams before, just basically looking at something like that, right? And look where we end up getting rejected is right in that 786, 886 fib pocket. And same thing here. We set another lower low, go from our confirmed lower high down to our lower low. Where do we get rejected? Once again, 786, 886 fib pocket. And that's kind of why, same thing right now, right? Is I'm just looking at this as, hey, we do have a lower low and another lower low, pulling the Fibonacci from the confirmed lower high there. And this is just kind of a level of resistance. So even though I'm not excessively bearish at this point, just because we don't have weakness yet, that's one thing, right? Is I don't typically like just setting blind orders, especially on a longer time frame like this and when using leverage and that sort of thing. But it's important to note that, yes, no matter what, this is kind of a level to be cautious at, because we are trading into resistance. I know everybody loves getting FOMO and everyone gets very bullish into resistance. That's very normal, just like people were getting very bearish as we traded into support, right? That's very normal. That's what most retail traders do. Because everyone wants those breakout plays and don't like waiting for those retraces, right? And since it looks like we're going to break out to the upside here, it's just something to be a little bit cautious of. Yeah, it's great that we broke this resistance. That was a great start, because also when I bring up the auto charting tools, it did print this lower high signal here. And, the fact that we broke above that level, I really did think it was a clear shot towards 65. And yeah, we came within like $30 or whatever it is there. So a nice clear shot towards 65K. But yeah, like I said, no matter how you look at it, Bitcoin still has some work to do. If we end up blasting through this resistance, especially candle bodies closing above this, I think it's quite likely that we actually end up taking a decent run towards all-time highs once again. And I know I haven't been talking about that since basically early June. I've been very bearish since, but just that we keep testing those Stuber fibs on the macro time frame, eventually that trend will break. It doesn't have to happen this time, but we're just starting to see some signs. So at this point, even the fact that we ended up breaking above this level right here, this lower high structure that was printed by the auto charting tools, if we get some sort of a pullback, I would like to pull basically same thing, right? Just like here, I was looking at, pulling Fibonacci, something like that, right? Same thing, 786 got a beautiful rejection there, beautiful short opportunity. But when we look at this full range here, pulling from the lower high signal to the higher low signal, that's the thing. This indicator did print a higher low, although I'm not considering it confirmed, because on the macro scale, we have not broke our lower high yet. It is just something to consider that, hey, this indicator did print this because it takes into account, structure, volume, a whole bunch of different things. So a little bit different than how I look at structure. But what I would love to see now is, even if we got some sort of a retrace here before blasting through that macro red resistance box there, if we could get a pullback towards this Stuber fib here, and this is the 4 hour, so it would take a while. And, it might not happen. Those are just a typical setup that I like looking for. And just seeing it on the 4 hour right now, my eye is automatically drawn to that, just because, like I said, some of these MDX ALGO indicators point out that signal there, the higher low. And that's just great confluence for me to be considering that as a Fibonacci pull point. So I absolutely see reasons why, even if we end up coming right back down, and a lot of people would start getting extremely bearish in that case, I think it's very realistic that we would just end up finding support somewhere in this box and at least get some sort of a trade opportunity to the upside from there. One thing to consider, if we end up getting a harsh rejection here, I know I have been calling for, I really assumed that we were on our way towards 52K. Full disclosure, I totally thought we were on our way when we started seeing these rejections off of the Fibonacci pulled from this level. I really thought that it was still on the table that we could go down and retest the bottom of this range. And honestly, it's still a possibility. But if we get back down here, I think best case scenario for Bitcoin is that we did end up getting some sort of a deeper correction and pulling back to that 786, 886 of this entire swing. If we can pull back to that level and actually approach it with some nice big bullish divergences, for example, specifically the RSI is one that I love looking at. Since we were so overextended here when we had that big sell-off towards 49K, just look how deep the RSI went into oversold conditions. Now, to be fair, that could just mean a lot of sell strength, right? But it's more so the divergence that I'm interested in. If we end up dropping back down towards these levels and we see something like this with the RSI, finding support, let's say around the 30 level, so not quite going oversold again, that would be a beautiful divergence in my opinion and a beautiful pullback. Now, again, I want to be very clear that does not need to happen. The market does not give a shit what I think or how I feel or what I want. It's way more important to be able to react than predict in these markets. But that's just kind of a level that's on my radar if we do see a deep retrace, right? Because that people are going to get very bearish into support again. But I would love that opportunity to scoop up some longs and also some spot buys. That would be absolutely fantastic. As we trade into this resistance, I mean, I'm still not all that bearish. I want to hop over to some shorter time frames. And again, right, like I was talking about before, just looking for those 786, 886. So even on the 1 minute, I'm looking at for the same thing. I have orders set in here. That's basically where I'm interested in building a more serious long position. But yeah, if we end up dropping back below kind of, we have this little bit of support back here with this little range that we were trading sideways in for a little bit before our last little pump to the upside here. If we end up dropping the support of this range, then, I'm just going to cut my losses and just wait a little bit and reevaluate, because like I said, we're getting towards we got to my 65K target. And, it's time to start being a little bit cautious. So, I've dialed down my position sizing and stuff like that. But I still do have a little chunk of my long running from last night. I closed 3/4 of it fairly quickly. I believe it was actually during my stream last night. I had already locked in 3/4 of my position, but I always like to let some run just in case something like this happens, right? And again, just kind of going to my strategy and why I took a position yesterday. I have to go way back because it was on the 1 minute. Yeah, right here. So I had this mapped out. Some of you guys were with me in a live stream, but basically you can see I have this green line here. So basically how this structure went, and this is very micro analyzing, but that's how scalping is. And that's how I treat most of my positions when I first open them, is I do treat them as more of a scalp. And from there, I hope to catch a runner, which is exactly what happened today, right? But basically during my stream yesterday, we had this lower low. This is my confirmed lower high on this immediate downtrend, right? Just since we lost this support right here, basically, right here is where we lost our resistance. So the exact opposite, right? So when we get that bullish structure break, that's why I have it in green, even though it's resistance. It was in green because if we break that level, that's a bullish structure break where, hey, at least at that point, we had something hinting that there might have been a shift in the trend, right? So with that little structure break, that's where I start eyeing up that 786, 886 Fibonacci pocket. And you can see we just blasted off from that 786. That is just a very typical setup that I like to play. Auto charting tools set a higher low signal right at that level. Now, full disclosure about that, this indicator is a little bit of a lagging indicator because it waits for certain confirmations and that sort of thing. So the higher low would not have been printed there. This lower low was printed and this lower high was printed. So even though they are technically downtrending signals, it's still an obvious pivot point, right? The fact that the indicator is agreeing that, hey, this is some sort of a pivot point, just gave me that additional confluence and confidence for my position to suggest that, hey, this is a proper Fibonacci pull because the indicator is agreeing, basically. On top of that, I was very intrigued by the 1 hour chart, because something that I love using these indicators for is and probably my favorite indicator is, I'm actually going to erase everything for now, but the trend master indicator. So this one, I actually have my own preset settings for those of you who do have these indicators. I do have my own indicator presets, so Stu Trading, and it'll basically take the same scalping settings that I have. And what I really love to do with these signals is so I don't take each individual signal all that serious, but I love using these indicators to help me point out which way the trend is going. And something I was discussing yesterday is that, notice on the 1 hour, we have these beautiful uptrending buy signals, right? The next buy signal was obviously a little bit higher, right? And from there, we got another buy signal. We got another higher buy signal. So we had on the 1 hour, when I was zoomed out to the 1 hour, we had the indicators suggesting that, hey, I think that there is an uptrend basically coming in here on the 1 hour. So that's where on the 1 minute, I'm starting to look for reasons to go long, basically. And that's why I took that position when the Stuber fib setup came to light and that sort of thing. So very cool. I love using the indicators for that, because at the end of the day, when it comes to trading, I always believe that price structure is basically most important. For me personally, I always look at chart structure first. And from there, I start bringing up indicators and I start looking for second opinions, basically. Does this indicator agree with me, and that sort of thing? So yeah, like I said, just noticing which way they end up trending can be a beautiful thing. And as well, on the 4 hour, something that I had noticed was with the liquidations indicator. This is a very handy tool because it just kind of shows where there is some heavy liquidation levels, and all these yellow and brown gold lines here, these are 50x and 100x liquidation levels. So I figured that, hey, there's actually a chance we break through this resistance this time because we have all this liquidity up here. So, and notice we grabbed that, and right now we're struggling already. That being said, I think there's absolutely the possibility we do go a little bit higher because there is still some liquidations up there. That being said, obviously, we're starting to see now people who are longing into this. They're getting FOMO and longing into this trend, and we're starting to see those late longs and their high leverage liquidation levels showing up below us. And that being said, if I pull a Fibonacci, before I was entertaining the idea of possibly going down towards 52K, if I pull this Fibonacci, notice where that liquidation ends up, basically. There's this one. There's actually one right behind it as well. But basically, the last of these liquidation levels basically lines up right at where my 786 Fibonacci was. And so, yeah, that's basically where people get bearish. They start cutting their losses. They get liquidated, whatever. It's just interesting to see that we have those liquidations down at that level. So just another second opinion of, hey, yes, it does make sense if we end up dropping to that level, right? I'm just going to reload that so that I get rid of everything that I just changed there. I want to hop back over to the 1 minute just to keep an eye on things here. Actually, can I reload this too? Hopefully I still have everything properly mapped out here. Basically, yeah, wait for some things to load here. And yeah, so we are starting to see signs that, there's a couple things trending to the downside on the 1 minute right now. We have these bearish P's. So these are pivot points, these yellow P's. These are fairly new to the indicators. But again, using them just to kind of help spot the trend, right? So as it stands right now, I think there is the potential that we do go a little bit lower. We have the sell signal. We have these downward sloping P's. That's basically, since I've already paid myself a bunch on the long that I took yesterday, I'm just basically letting the last quarter run, and we're going to see what happens. Either we break all-time highs or we don't. But if I was, in some sort of a newer position that I was worried about, getting stopped out, whatever, let's just say I, entered even down here, something like that, just theoretical, right? Getting these sell signals, although I wouldn't take that sell signal as necessarily a short signal, it would be a very good, take profit. And usually I myself, when I start taking profits, as I just mentioned, I just like to take little bits at a time so that I can catch that running position when it does happen, like today, for example. But as it stands right now, We still have the buy signals trending to the upside. So even though we have a sell signal right now, notice that it's just higher trending sell signals, right? We have one down here. We have a higher sell. We have a higher sell. We have a higher sell. So everything's still kind of trending to the upside, which is why what I'm really interested in right now is if we can, get some sort of a bounce. Let me bring that Fibonacci back up. If we can get some kind of a bounce down at these levels here, I just want to get the whole range in there. If we can get some sort of a bounce off these levels down here and then reclaim that sell trend, basically, I think then it makes sense that we just end up continuing trending to the upside if we get another higher buy signal. If all of a sudden we start getting, we set another higher buy signal, and then all of a sudden we get, after this sell, we get a lower sell signal. At that point, I am going to take a step back and reevaluate, see what happens, maybe even take a stab at some shorts, if nothing else, just a hedge short at that point. Just because then there's at least some sort of sign of weakness as we got near my resistance level, right? So just looking for a little bit of confirmations there. That being said, guys, if these indicators I use do interest you, I use them every single day. I've been using them for about 2 years now. I do have a link down below, which gets you a 10% additional discount on top of current promotions at checkout. And yeah, that gets you these just groundbreaking indicators, in my opinion. Absolutely love them. There is so many that I don't even use, quite honestly. Invite only. Look at all these MDX indicators here. All have their very unique features and use cases. Everyone obviously uses things differently when they're looking at charts. We could have the same indicators, same trend lines, absolutely everything the same, and trade it completely differently. I just use a handful of them. I use about 4 that I really like. But yeah, and in the group there is, there's educational videos put on by the guys who created these indicators and that sort of thing, just kind of showing how they use them and stuff like that. So just absolutely love them. And on top of that, just how beautiful they are. Let's just remove all my drawings here and, just remove some things. Just straight up the look of them. Absolutely love how colorful they are, but obviously they do have proper functions as well. And there's so much customization with them. There's so many things you can do. You want to keep an eye on daily opens, weekly opens, monthly opens. There's automatic Fibonacci's, automatic trend lines, automatic support resist flip areas. There's so much stuff that you can really customize. But as it stands right now, basically what I'm looking for is I want to get some sort of a bounce down at this level. And like I said, if we end up dropping this range support down here, then I'm just going to cut my losses. But yeah, I have orders set at these levels. I always like to ladder into my positions. Just like when I scale out of my positions, I also like to scale into them. I'm very rarely an all or nothing kind of a trader. I think there's so much stress involved with that, in my opinion. I find it so much less stressful when I can just kind of ladder in, because obviously with my invalidation level down below this range here, obviously if I'm laddering into my position, then I'm going to drag my average entry down, right? And that just helps minimize risk. And that's not to be confused with, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on my position. That is very different. I have a set margin amount that I'm willing to trade, and I'm breaking it up, and I am getting heavier as we get closer to my invalidation level, just because that helps drag my average entry down so much, right? How is everyone feeling? Anyone super bullish, super bearish right now? Anyone who's thinking, I don't give a shit about resistance, we're going to all-time highs this weekend? How is everyone feeling? TA is bullish, but I still hope for lower prices, but I don't think I will get my targets. Honestly, yeah, there's a very good possibility. And that's why I always say reacting over predicting any day, because I myself, right, I was really hoping that we would end up getting that crash down towards 52K. And obviously we still could. It's just looking less and less likely is all. But again, anything can change. The market does not give a shit how we feel about it. That's the thing, guys, is trading is more than just predicting, right? It's understanding that, hey, if this happens, this is how I'm going to react. If this happens, then I have to consider these possibilities. That's more so the important part of trading, right? Because at the end of the day, none of us know for sure what is going to happen. No matter how positive you feel like you are on a position or anything like that, you don't know for sure. Anything can happen. And over the years of trading, Bitcoin has made that very clear to me that the market does not care about us, doesn't care, what's rational or what's not. The market's going to do what the market's going to do. And that's all there is to it. What I'm hearing is next stop 100K. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I do think eventually this market cycle, like even if we do end up crashing, because I know I've had some bearish targets in the past, and some of them I'm not even going to talk about some of them today because they're so far away and so much would have to happen. And in my opinion, we need some sort of a crazy black swan event. I even if we end up getting some sort of crazy black swan nuke that goes to levels way lower than anybody wants to admit is possible, I don't think that it'll be the end of the market cycle. I think it would be a very quick flush, and I think that the market would go into an insane recovery, especially with elections coming up and all that sort of stuff. I think there's absolutely potential for some sort of a crazy boom, just because, and this is all theoretical. I tend not to look into the news too much or into fundamentals too much or anything. I just kind of let the structure and the charts do what they're going to do. But basically, around election time, it would look very good for them if they want to stimulate the economy and start printing money again, just like they did, last time the economy was in trouble. It looks good short term, and then we get hammered with inflation over the next few years. So, that's absolutely a thing that could happen around election time if they want to start showing some, stimulating the economy a little bit. And if they start hitting that money printer button, then we all saw what happened last market cycle, right? So that is something to be on the lookout for as we get closer to that time frame. Next stop, the pub for a cold beer. As for BTC, don't know. You know what? That's a great idea. I was also going to go out with some friends soon and have a nice cold bubbly. On the macro, July high to August low, we just hit the 786 fib. Yes, Chaos. That's exactly right. That's basically this one you're talking about. Yeah, our high down to our low. And that's exactly why my target was about 65K. I still think there's reason, just like the title of the video. I think there's reason to believe that we would hit the 886, because so often that that whole Fibonacci pocket does get filled, at least in all of these moves. This one hit it. This one hit it. Will it happen again? I mean, we're going to have to see. But yeah, that's exactly why this was such a level on my radar, and also why I wanted to go live. Like I said, I don't have a ton of time here, and I'm not going to force any trades other than, obviously, as I said at the start here, I entered a little trade, but I'm more so looking at these levels to ladder into my position. But I really did also want to bring up the fact that, hey, we are starting to trade towards macro resistance. So just be a little bit careful, right? I'm keeping my stops fairly tight. I'm not looking for a home run trade. If I enter a trade on the 1 minute, I'm not looking for I'm not entering on a 1 minute chart and then hoping that we break all time highs. Well, yeah, actually, that's a lie. I totally hope that happens. But that's not realistic, right? Just playing it range for range. I mean, if this is kind of the range I'm looking at, if we get that pullback and we end up testing this, if we even get the bounce from there, I would be looking to start taking profits at my 214 fib here, which is at around 64.6K. And basically my reasoning for that 214, I know that seems like a very random Fibonacci. That's basically the opposing 786. Like I've showed so many examples of how I love looking at the 786, 886. The 214 is basically just front running the exact opposite, right? Like, let's just say, again, theoretical, but let's say that is where we bottom out. If I pull the opposite Fibonacci, so I'm looking for resistance rather than a bounce, it would be something like that, right? So you can see the 214 just slightly front runs the 786. So that's kind of why I choose that as one of my take profits, is because I think, if this is the size of range that I am basically looking at taking a position, I am playing. If I pull a Fibonacci like this, that is the size of the range that I'm playing. And this is why I love Fibonacci so much, is because it is so structured, right? At that point, if I want to play the range, well, there it is. It's laid out for me. And I'm not looking for the exact top of the range, looking for more so that 786 pulled the opposite way. So that's where I'd be starting to take profits. But again, if that even happens, I will not close the entire position there. If that does happen, I'll be more so looking to close like a third to a half of my position there, and then hoping the rest runs, just like I did yesterday with my other position. But that's why it's good to have several accounts, so that you can play around and enter other trades while other trades are running and that sort of thing, enter hedges, all that sort of good stuff. So this is kind of what I'm looking for right now. There is some warnings. I will give it that. Just like I said, on the 4 hour, we got very near resistance there. The 1 minute, we did lose this higher low. It's at a lower low signal here. But, I'm kind of looking at this little range here as being the last level that we broke out from. So that's kind of where I'm hoping that Bitcoin ends up finding some sort of a support bounce from that level, just flipping resistance into support. Notice that 786 level lines up perfectly with the resistance of this little channel here. And it looks like we're coming down. Might even get that. We might blast right through it, right? But that's basically a lot of people when they are trading, especially shorter time frames. Everyone, like I was talking about at the beginning of the stream, everyone loves to play breakouts. Nobody wants to wait for those retraces. But the thing is, if you entered along, up here looking for that breakout, I mean, look how far away your invalidation is. Obviously, some people would set their stop loss way too tight. And yeah, as soon as we drop a little bit, they're going to get stopped out, whatever. But obviously waiting for this retrace, even if it gets stopped out, the loss is significantly smaller from here getting stopped out below our lows here than if I were to enter on a FOMO breakout kind of play and then drop all the way back down, right? So no matter how good a strategy is, every trader loses trades, but what's really important is controlling those losses, right? You don't want to be taking massive losses. You don't want to be entering positions without stop losses. You want to be able to lose many, many trades before blowing up your account, because you want to survive the market. And that's why waiting for those pullbacks, you have such tighter risk management. You just have much tighter invalidation levels, right? And exactly, yeah, we've been range bound for quite a while. And that's actually why I think that there may be some juice left in the tank, is that we were trading sideways here since, what is that, August 8th, somewhere in there. Just been trading sideways in this range. So, we've actually, we came and tested that resistance of that channel several times, just kind of tapping away at it. So eventually getting that breakout, I mean, it would make a lot of sense. I'm just trying to see if there's any sort of a interesting, whatever. If something's not clear on a diagonal, I mean, horizontal levels are always more important anyways. But I was just seeing if we could find some sort of a perfect 3-touch point and then flip in resistance into support kind of a thing. But either way, the fact that we traded around this resistance level of this range for such a long time and breaking out, I mean, I thought it was a fairly clear shot up to this resistance box. And from there, we're going to have to see what happens. If there's any follow through here and we start breaking through here, that's where things could get quite juicy, especially if we could, break above this level. And also we had this little range back here, right? Also this little bit of resistance here. So to flip that little bit of structure here, get above it, come back and retest that resistance as support, that would be a beautiful thing for Bitcoin to do. So we're getting down towards my next order here. Sorry, just want to kind of catch up on the chat here a little bit as well. You took some profits on your alts in the middle of this move. They all teleported as well. Question on trading psychology: how to overcome FOMO and revenge trading. I'm feeling those alts will 100x from now. Honestly, FOMO and revenge trading are a very real thing, and that's one reason, guys. Even though I'm showing you, for the most part, I'm looking at the 1 minute and the 5 minute stuff like that. Let me be clear: trading the 1 minute is not for everybody, right? It does lead to bad habits. It does lead to over trading, revenge trading, over leveraging, all those bad habits that we're supposed to, not entertain the idea of. But I mean, as far as overcoming that, I think it's just, I would say personally, I believe the best thing you can do for, if you're struggling with revenge trading and over trading and that sort of thing, I think the best thing you can do is actually handwrite out or type out or whatever, a set of rules for what kind of a trade setup you take. So it's not just, oh, it looks like it's going up, I'm longing. It looks like it's going to go down, I'm shorting. Have an actual list of criteria for you to enter a trade setup. And also on top of that, back test it, right? Come up with a set of, let's say, 3, 4, 5 rules, whatever, before you enter a position, and then go back in the chart, use this replay feature in Tradingview, and see how often that trade setup plays out, right? How often does it play out? How often does it not? Kind of know your odds before taking those positions, just because that'll help you keep such a level head, right? Obviously, you still have the ability to just ignore your own set of rules and just get into your positions anyways. But writing them out and sticking to that, being like, have a checklist next to your computer or whatever, and just, hey, if these things happen, then I'm allowed to take a position, kind of a thing. That could really help with the whole FOMO, the emotional trading side of things. Scalp short 100x from 65k. Hey, you're sitting good right now. I myself, especially using 100x leverage, I hope you're taking some profits at this point. When I'm, obviously you do you, but we never quite ended up hitting my level. I am going to add to my position just a little bit right now. Yeah, when I'm trading with high leverage, I mean, that's exactly why I use Fibonacci's and why I take profits quickly. Like I treat, when I'm using high leverage, because I also like using high degenerate leverage, I often use 69x or 50x, or, on the lower end, I'm kind of down at like 20x in volatile times like this. But yeah, basically when I'm using high leverage, I want to make sure I am downsizing my risk quickly. I am remembering to pay myself quickly, because I'm always playing the range first and looking for that runner with the rest of the position. But I personally when I hit my first range target, I'm always taking at least a quarter, usually a quarter to a half of my position, basically. So like if we get up towards this 214 fib here, I am going to, well, probably, since I have that other position running as well, I'd probably end up closing a quarter of it. And also if we hit this level, actually, even if we get some sort of a nice bounce here, I'm going to cancel my other orders that I had. I already canceled the one at the 786 because I just entered manually a little more. But I still have the order down at the 886 and the double bottom territory. If we get some sort of a bounce, above these structure levels and we're actually closing candles above here, I'm just going to cancel the other orders at that point, because I think if we do come back down, that might just be showing a little bit of weakness. But as it stands, I do have some more orders. And however it ends up, if we end up getting up towards this 64.6K, yeah, I'm going to be closing at least a quarter of my position. I personally don't think it's going to happen during this stream, because I do only have about 10 minutes before I got to get running here. But That's kind of what I'm looking at for now. Retestment price of BTC? I'm not sure I understand what you mean. How does 63.5 line up? Very close to my 886 of how I currently have it pulled, basically from the bottom of this range here. 63.5 would be, well, basically right in the middle between my 886 fib and my full retrace. And yeah, I agree. There's some structure there. You can see some pivoting there on this little mini range that we had on our way up. Let's see what the 5 minutes up to. Just curious here. What kind of signals do we have on the 5 minute? We have higher highs. We haven't had any higher lows for a while, so no confluence for pivot points there. In fact, if we end up nuking this level, I will be looking for a deeper retrace, and I would consider looking at something like this, looking for a much bigger pullback if this one gets invalidated. But again, depending how structure forms and all that, I would be very interested in looking for potential long setups down here. See what the indicators are saying and all that sort of stuff. You got lucky on the 100x. Well, luck is always a part of it, right? Because no strategy is 100%, and there's always a little bit of luck involved. But hopefully, it wasn't 100% luck. What's the trend master indicator saying? We're we're showing a little bit of weakness on our buy trend here, so we might even see a sell signal come in soon, but we're kind of fighting with it right now, right? It hasn't even flipped blue yet, so we still do have this buy trend here. I kind of want to zoom out a little bit and see what kind of signals we have on the 5 minute. Actually, you know what? Here's a perfect example of where the trend changed, and look how beautifully this called it, you guys. Again, this buy signal here, on its own, not so much, because, or this one specifically, I don't know how this one ended up being. Oh, that was a higher buy as well. So, and honestly, that did get a fairly nice little move to the upside if you're looking for scalping. But notice that then we had this little downtrend. We lost our uptrend, get our sell signal. But look what happens so we get our lower buy signal. But look what happens when we flip back to a higher buy signal once again. Now, this is the 5 minute. We get that higher buy signal. That was such a beautiful entry to catch this whole move. And then notice that we got another one, right? We got a higher buy signal again. We got the auto charting tools just starting to print higher highs, higher lows. These pivot points, you can see they start trending to the upside. I mean, that's just where I like, as I was saying at the beginning of the stream, I love using these indicators to basically confirm my bias and just draw my eye to which way things are actually trending. So it's not each individual signal, but showing how they really, really flow and which way they are moving, right? Absolutely beautiful there. But let's get back to the 1 minute to finish things up here. Get the trend master indicator back on here. Yeah, so we're still holding this sell signal as resistance, but I mean, we're starting to test it quite a bit. We'll have to see. We might get a higher buy signal here fairly soon. We'll have to see. Starting to see some bullish signs print. Again, they're trending to the downside, so take it for what it is. But there is some bullish divergences and stuff like that starting to show. As well, this wave master indicator, this is a neat one too. So it's basically a beefed up RSI is the way I look at it. But yeah, basically just seeing momentum kind of shift to the upside as we bottomed out right here. So yes, it's absolutely possible we end up going a little bit lower, but you can see that momentum looks like it's trying to shift to the upside there. Again, it's the 1 minute. Take it for what it is, but there is those signs, right? And again, guys, if these indicators do interest you in the slightest, like I said, there is a discount link down below, 10% additional discount on top of current promotions at checkout. Uh, like I said at the start of this stream, you guys, the only other indicator I really use at this point, I mean, like I said, always price action first, and then I start looking at indicators for a second opinion. The only other one I really use is the RSI, and that's just because for years I've had a very specific divergence that I've looked at for the RSI when playing double tops, double bottoms, and those super fib pockets and stuff like that. But other than that, the only other indicators I use are these MDX algo indicators, and I have been using them religiously every single day for the last 2 years, actually just over 2 years now. So I absolutely love them. So if that interests you, there is that link down below as well. We are on a 272 fib from the initial move up today. If we are super bullish, we will bounce here, or we will drop to the 382 around 63, 372. Yeah, I absolutely agree. You know, I think there's reason to believe we could go a little bit lower because we haven't even quite tested this 786, 886. But yeah, this general area, I mean, this is where I would really hope to find support if this really bullish trend is going to continue. If, like I said, if we end up dropping and just nuking through this support here, I'm just going to take a step back at that point, reevaluate, and kind of see what starts happening, what way the indicators start trending and stuff like that once again. If we end up getting a higher buy signal,